Good day, students. My name is Jixin Nushash, and it's our lecture from the sensory analysis. So we will today will take the continue of the analytical sensory tests. So at last we had it about the triangle test. So today we'll took the another ones. So the first is a duotro test. So it's the can be applied to determine whether changes in ingredients, processing, packaging, or storage have resulted in the differences between products. So which is very important when you have just one series of the production. So this dual test finds the application, the selection of the panelists, and product and process development, product matching, quality control, and as a preliminary test prior to analytical descriptive testing. So as a scope and the application of this test is used to determine whether difference exists between two samples. So the difference can involve one or several sensory attributes, but no direction or magnitude of the differences in measured. So a dual test can be used when one of the product is an existing standard or reference. Yeah, so it's the statistically, this test is less powerful than the triangle test because the chance of guessing a correct result is 1 in 2. So the duotro test is therefore only used when it's required from the judgment, or it's the case when the tasting in the product with the lingering aftertaste, such as the bitterness, spicy, or chili. So as a principle of this testing is 3 samples, or 2 of which are identical and are present to each panelist. So one sample is identified as a reference sample, and the panelists are instructed to access the reference sample first, and they identify which of 2 samples is the same as the reference. So it's the forced choice test. Yeah. So it's as a comparing. So for the preparation and procedure, the samples prepared should be representative of the product or prepared in exactly the same way. So it's the possible samples are presented simultaneously or if required sequentially, and there are 2 forms of the test. It can be balanced reference mode or constant reference mode. And also this test is very suitable um, to define if it's your panelist is suitable for this test. Yeah, so it's just a comparing and yes or no, yes or no, and then after in the results you can see if this panelist is suitable for this testing. Next is 2 out of 5 tests. So it's still used to determine whether there is a sensor difference between 2 samples and the 2 select and monitor panelists. So it's the statistical very efficient as a probability of guessing correctly the different 2 samples from the 5 samples presented is low. Yeah, so before in the dual test, you can just choose one of them, uh, any tasting or any have any clue about it maybe. Yeah, so in this test you can see that repeatedly uh, confirm your result. So well, it can be useful when the only small number of the panelists are available, and however sensory fatigue and memory effects may affect the test. So as with the triangle and dual tests, it's the assigned 3-digit random codes and to the samples, and the make up the score sheets, taking care to prepare the samples in an identical fashion. So there will be 20 possible combinations. So panelists are instructed to access each product from the left to right and select the 2 samples that are different from the other 3. So statistical table exists to determine the significance of the result. It's the little clear and a little close to this type of the test. Next is A not A test. So it's the used to determine when the test samples in a series are the same as a different from the reference sample. So it's an especially useful test where a triangle or dual tests cannot be used. So this may be a case where the comparison are required between products that have a strong or lingering flavor aftertaste when you will need to control the time between sample presentation, or if there are differences in appearance. So it's also useful to determine accessor sensitivities to a stimulus. So panelists are then represented with the series of the sample, some of the which is the reference sample A and some not A. So generally, the panelist doesn't have access to reference A while evaluating the test samples, and the panelists must determine whether the sample is the same as A or different, not A. So it's a forced choice test. So only one type of the not A sample exists per test series. So panelists may test one, two, or up to the 10 samples in this series, depending on the fatigue factors, of course. And the samples represented randomly with the three-digit codes, and one at the time an assessment is made recorded before proceeding and to the next sample, and all samples are prepared in an identical way, and it's representative of the product. So the analysis of this data is quite complex. Next is paired comparison test. So it's the paired comparison test can be used for multiple comparison, but this result is in a large number of the pairs to access, which uses a lot of samples and can cause sensory fatigue. So in this situation, it's better to use a rating test. So before the sensory testing commences, it's necessary to decide whether the result will be treated as a unilateral or bilateral test. The most common paired comparison tests are two-sided, it means bilateral, where there is no prior expectation of the result or conclusion that can be drawn, or there is not evidence of the difference, or that one sample has a greater intensity of the chosen attributes or is preferred. So one-sided is also exists when there is prior expectation of the direction of the difference, and conclusion to be drawn includes there is no evidence of a difference or that a previously declared sample is greater in the attribute intensity or is preferred. So the wording used at bilateral and unilateral score sheet is different. So this test principle is two coded samples complete the score sheet question that have been previously determined by the test objectively. As a panelist, this test fairly simple, requiring minimal training, but the panelists must understand that attributes that is being tested. So, however, trained panelists may be selected if appropriate. So, 20 is a reasonable number when the panelists have been screened, and statistical numbers can be reduced to 7 for a trained panel. But when using completely untrained testers, such as consumers, so then much larger numbers. So it can be up of the hundreds. So many as it's needed. The preparation and procedure of this testing also very close to the previous testing. So it's the we are choosing randomly 3-digit coded samples, and on of each products we are presented, and the sample presented is representative of the product, and all samples are prepared identically. So equal numbers of B, and BA are randomly allocated to the panelists. So panelists are instructed to assess the samples in a specific order. It can be from the left to right or from the right to left. So you should explain it before the testing and identify which has the higher level of the particular attribute or preferred. So we should remember that the main rule is for testing, we should take the ingredients which is the very lowest, right? So because from the if we will begin from the highest, so then the lowest concentration wouldn't be any detected by our uh, organs maybe. So the test is forced the choice test, and the no difference responses are not allowed. So as a analysis of a result, it's use statistical tables for unilateral tests and the bilateral tests. So count of the number of the replies identifying and particular sample most frequently. So compare this value with the number shown in the statistical table for the number of panelists used. So those materials is given for you in the laboratory works, and you can test see the samples of the sheets and the answer on them. So as an example of the bilateral test, so it has you have two drinks A and B, and it's offered of a panel of the 30 assessors, and two samples are presented under a random number, for example 7, 8, 9, and 3, 7, 9. So the test supervisor accepts a 5% level of the significance, so it means the less than 0.5%. So he doesn't know which of the samples contains more sugar. Yeah, so the question will be which sample is sweeter. Yeah, so you just answering if it is A or B. So for unilateral tests, also it's let me take two drinks, A and B, and also offered to a panel of the 30 assessors, and the two samples are presented under random number as the same as before, and the test supervisor accept as a 1% of the level significance, so it means less than 0.01. So he knows that drink A contains more sugar than drink B. So it's the question will be, is sample A sweeter than B? Yeah. So you should just answer if it is yes or no. So it means giving them more chance for making the uh, right answers. So thank you for your attention, and it's all about the difference testing. So looking forward to see you on our next lectures. Goodbye.